During dinner, my mom silently slid a note toward me. Say you feel unwell and go home. I met her eyes. She gave a subtle nod. I left quietly, and just minutes later, someone at the table collapsed. The clinking of silverware and the low hum of conversation filled the dining room that evening, the kind of ordinary family dinner that felt both comfortable and predictable. My Uncle Peter's house always had that warm lived-in smell of oak furniture and lemon cleaner. Laughter floated through the air as my father told one of his overly long jokes, and my cousins pretended to laugh louder than necessary, just to please him. My mom sat across from me, her smile polite but her eyes sharp. She had that look she got when she was quietly watching everything, like she was seeing something the rest of us missed. I was 22, home from college for the weekend. I hadn't planned on staying long, just a family dinner before I'd head back to campus. I remember thinking how normal it all felt, how nothing seemed out of place. The roast my uncle kept bragging about filled the air with a rich, savory smell. Glasses clinked, someone poured wine, and at the far end of the table sat Cynthia, an old family friend my uncle had recently reconnected with. Cynthia was the kind of person who talked too much and smiled too wide. She had brought a dish of her own, something she called her special recipe. She kept encouraging everyone to try it, practically forcing it on us. "Come on, you have to taste it," she said, laughing in that too bright tone that made her sound like she was performing. "It's my secret ingredient that makes it perfect." I didn't think much of it. I was too busy pretending to enjoy my uncle's endless stories. But my mom, she noticed. I saw the faint tightening of her jaw, the way her gaze followed Cynthia's every move. When my mom got quiet like that, it meant something was wrong. She leaned forward slightly, pretending to ask me about college. Her voice was calm, but her eyes told a different story. Without warning, I felt her hand brush mine under the table. Then, something smooth and small slipped into my palm, a folded note. I frowned, unfolding it beneath the tablecloth. There were only 4 words written in her neat, urgent handwriting. "Pretend you feel sick. Leave now." My stomach dropped. I looked up at her, confused, waiting for some kind of sign that it was a joke, but she just gave me a subtle nod. Her face stayed composed, but her eyes were fierce, commanding. My pulse started to race. I didn't understand what was happening, but I trusted her enough not to ask questions. I pushed my chair back, clutching my stomach. "I don't feel well," I muttered, trying to sound casual. "Maybe I just need some air." A few heads turned toward me, concerned. My uncle started to say something, but my mom spoke first. "She's been under a lot of stress at school. Let her get some rest." Her tone was so steady that no one questioned it. I walked out of the dining room, forcing myself not to look back. Only when I stepped into the quiet hallway did I let my hands shake. The air felt heavier, colder. My mom's words echoed in my mind. "Leave now." I ducked into the kitchen, trying to calm my breathing. The steady hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. My phone felt slick in my sweaty palm as I texted her under the counter. "What's happening? Why did you want me to leave?" The seconds dragged on. My nerves were stretched thin. From the other room, I could hear the clatter of forks and a burst of laughter. Everyone else seemed fine. Only my mom seemed to sense danger. Finally, my phone buzzed. "Stay out of sight. Trust me." I gripped the phone tighter, my heart thundering. Something was terribly wrong. Then I heard it. A cough. Faint at first, then sharper. Another cough followed, louder this time. A chair scraped against the floor. The chatter in the dining room broke into confusion. I rushed to the doorway, peering around the corner. My cousin Jacob was slumped forward, clutching his chest. His face was pale, his eyes wide with panic. My father jumped up, shouting for water. My uncle grabbed a napkin, waving it uselessly. Cynthia stood frozen, her hand over her mouth. "Call 911!" someone shouted. Chaos erupted. Chairs toppled, plates crashed, voices overlapped. And through it all, my mom didn't move. She sat perfectly still, her face pale but composed, her gaze locked on Cynthia. When her eyes flicked toward me, her meaning was clear. "Stay back." I couldn't breathe. My cousin gasped for air, and I wanted to run to him, but I obeyed her. My mom wasn't panicking. She was watching Cynthia, watching every detail. I hid behind the kitchen door, trembling. Then my phone buzzed again. "Don't eat or drink anything. Trust me." That was when it clicked. The note. The warning. My mom hadn't just been saving me from discomfort. She'd been saving me from danger. Cynthia's voice rose above the noise. It must be an allergy. He must be allergic to something. Her tone was high and frantic, but something about it felt off. She wasn't concerned, ill, she was defensive. Her eyes darted around too fast, landing on the half-empty bowl of her dish. The paramedics were on their way. My uncle was shouting into the phone, his words choked with fear. My father tried to keep Jacob awake, slapping his cheeks gently. My cousins stood frozen near the wall, tears streaming down their faces. And then, through all of it, my mother spoke. Her voice was low, but it carried across the chaos. "Cynthia," she said, "you haven't eaten a single bite of your own dish tonight." The room went still. Every head turned. Cynthia's face went blank for a second. Then she laughed, a brittle sound that broke apart halfway through. "What? That's ridiculous. I ate before I came. I wasn't hungry." My mom didn't blink. "You've pushed that dish on everyone all night? You insisted we all try it, but you never took a single spoonful yourself?" The silence that followed was unbearable. My uncle's face drained of color. My father looked from Cynthia to the bowl, realization dawning in his eyes. "Then prove it," my mother said. "Take a bite." It was the calmest, most terrifying sentence I'd ever heard. Cynthia's jaw tightened. "This is insane," she snapped. "You're accusing me of—" "Of what?" my mom interrupted softly. "Something you already know you did?" Cynthia froze. The performance fell apart. Her breathing grew uneven, her eyes glassy with anger and fear. "What did you do?" my uncle demanded, his voice shaking. "Cynthia, what the hell did you do?" Something inside her broke. She threw up her hands. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Everyone stared. "What do you mean?" my dad barked. "You nearly killed my nephew." Cynthia's voice cracked. "You think your family is perfect? You think you can ruin people's lives and walk away like nothing happened?" She pointed a shaking hand at my uncle. "Your brother destroyed me years ago. I lost everything. I just wanted justice." My uncle's face crumpled in shock. "Justice? By poisoning my family?" Cynthia's shoulders sagged. "I only wanted to scare you," she whispered. "I didn't mean for it to be this bad." The wail of sirens filled the distance outside, growing louder. Moments later, paramedics rushed in, pushing past us toward Jacob. 2 police officers followed, quickly taking control. As they worked to stabilize my cousin, the officers questioned everyone. Cynthia's story fell apart with every passing minute. When one officer asked her directly why she hadn't eaten her own food, her mask finally shattered. "It was just a mistake, she sobbed. "I didn't mean to kill anyone. I only wanted them to suffer, to feel what I felt." Her voice broke as the officer pulled her hands behind her back, reciting her rights. The sight of her being led out of the house left the room in stunned silence. I finally stepped forward, legs trembling. My mom turned toward me, her expression softening. She opened her arms and I sank into her hug. "You knew," I whispered against her shoulder. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "I just listened to my gut." Sometimes that's all you have outside. The flashing red and blue lights painted the walls. Paramedics wheeled Jacob out, assuring us he was stable. My father followed close behind, his face pale and rigid. The house emptied slowly after that. Neighbors stood outside whispering. Inside, the dining room, once full of laughter, was now a crime scene. My uncle sat at the table, staring blankly at the half-eaten meal. "She was my friend," he kept saying. "I trusted her." My mom rested a hand on his shoulder. "It's not your fault for being kind," she said softly. "It's her fault for using it against you." Hours later, when we finally got home, I couldn't sleep. The images replayed in my mind, my mother's note, Jacob gasping for air, Cynthia's trembling hands. I turned the small folded paper over and over in my hand, the ink slightly smudged from my sweaty fingers. 4 words that had saved my life. The next day, we visited Jacob at the hospital. He was pale but smiling weakly. "Guess I took one for the team," he said, trying to lighten the mood. But his voice shook. We all knew how close it had been. That night changed everything for me. I kept thinking about how easily it all could have gone differently, how I might have taken a bite from Cynthia's dish, laughed at her jokes, and never known what hit me. But my mom saw what no one else did. She noticed the nervous laughter, the untouched plate, the way Cynthia's hands trembled when she served the food. It wasn't proof, it was instinct. And it saved us all. I've thought a lot about that word, instinct. It's invisible, quiet, easy to ignore, but sometimes it's the only thing standing between life and disaster. That night taught me to listen to it, and to trust the people who love you enough to act without explanation. Now, whenever I think of that dinner, I don't just remember the fear. I remember my mother's calm strength, the way she didn't scream or panic. She just acted. She's not just my mom anymore in my eyes. She's the reason I'm alive to tell this story. Because sometimes the smallest warning, a note slipped under a table, can make all the difference between an ordinary dinner and a tragedy that could have ended everything. And I'll never forget those words, "Pretend you feel sick. Leave now." They were more than a warning. They were love written in 4 words, and they saved my life.